The stars glimmered like scattered diamonds against the obsidian canvas of space as the interspecies research vessel, Meridian, drifted through the contested border zone between Terran and Shindari territories. The sleek craft, a joint venture between the two species, hummed with the soft vibration of its quantum drives as it approached the disputed planet Kepler 442b. In the ship's communal lounge, Nathan Reed sat hunched over a holographic display, his weathered fingers dancing across tactical readouts. The former Terran Special Forces operative had been selected for this mission precisely because of his unique neural enhancements modifications that had cost him more than just his career. His steel-gray eyes, enhanced with optical implants, tracked multiple data streams simultaneously as he analyzed potential landing sites. "Still playing with your toys, Reed?" The voice carried a melodious quality like wind chimes in a gentle breeze, but with an undertone that could cut through armor plating. Nathan looked up to see Liriana approaching, her movements fluid and graceful, despite the ship's artificial gravity. The Shindari warrior was a study in contradictions. Her sunset-colored skin seemed to shimmer with its own inner light, while her silver hair fell in waves to her shoulders. She wore the standard-issue bio-armor of the Shindari military, its organic curves adapting to her lithe form. "Data analysis isn't playing," Nathan replied, his voice carrying the gravel of too many battles and too little sleep. "Some of us prefer to know what we're walking into." Liriana laughed, a sound that made something tighten in Nathan's chest. "Where's the fun in that? The best discoveries come from stepping into the unknown." She moved closer, and Nathan caught her scent, something like ozone and distant storms, alien yet intoxicating. Their mission briefing had been clear: survey the planet's archaeological sites, map potential resources, and maintain the fragile peace between their species. Simple on paper. But Nathan had learned that nothing involving two different species was ever truly simple. "You know," Liriana said, settling into the chair across from him, "we've been working together for 3 weeks, and I still don't know much about you, Nathan Reed of Terra?" "Not much to know." Nathan's fingers stilled on the holographic interface. "Former military, current contractor. Pretty standard story." Liriana's violet eyes, another striking feature of her species, sparkled with mischief. "I bet you don't even know my real name." Nathan's enhanced hearing picked up the slight change in her heartbeat, the way her voice carried just a hint of vulnerability beneath the playful tone. "Your military designation is Warrior Scout Liriana Veltar of the 7th Fleet." "That's not what I mean, and you know it." She leaned forward, and Nathan found himself caught in the gravity of those impossible eyes. "Among my people, we have naming traditions that run deeper than military ranks. Our true names, they're sacred, personal." "That's so." Nathan felt something shift between them, like the moment before a storm breaks. "Tell you what," Liriana said, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow felt intimate in the ship's recycled air. "If you can guess my real name, my true name, I'll marry you." The words hung between them like a live grenade. Nathan's enhanced reflexes, trained for 1,000 combat scenarios, froze completely. "I'm sorry, what?" Liriana's laughter tinkled like crystal bells. "It's just a joke, Nathan. Humans do understand jokes, don't they? The odds of you guessing a Shindari true name are, well, approximately 3 million to 1, give or take." Something in Nathan's neural implants stirred patterns clicking into place. The enhanced cognitive processing that had made him such an effective soldier began working, pulling together fragments of information about Shindari naming conventions, their cultural linguistics, the way Liriana pronounced certain syllables. "Lyris," he said quietly. The color drained from Liriana's sunset skin, leaving her nearly translucent. Her eyes widened, and for a moment she looked like a startled bird about to take flight. "What did you just say?" Her voice had gone completely still, like the eye of a hurricane. "Lyris," Nathan repeated, equally shocked by his own certainty. "Your name, it's Lyris." Liriana stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the deck plating. "How? How could you possibly? She pressed a hand to her chest, and Nathan could see her breathing had become rapid shallow. I don't know. Nathan rose as well, his own pulse hammering in his enhanced hearing. It just came to me. The way you say certain sounds, the facial expressions, when you talk about your home. My implants sometimes pick up patterns I'm not consciously aware of. Patterns. Liriana's voice had dropped to barely above a whisper. You analyzed me, like one of your tactical readouts. No, it wasn't like that. Nathan reached toward her, but stopped himself. Liriana Lyris. I'm sorry. I didn't think... My wedding name, she breathed, touching her forehead with trembling fingers. You spoke my wedding name. The ship's communication system crackled to life, saving them from the weight of the moment. Attention all crew. We're approaching the designated landing zone. Prepare for surface operations in 30 minutes. Liriana, Lyris seemed to shake herself back to awareness. Without another word, she strode toward the door, her warrior's composure sliding back into place like armor being donned. But just before she left, she turned back. Among my people, she said, her voice carrying an edge that cut deeper than any blade, there are consequences to speaking sacred names. The door hissed shut behind her, leaving Nathan alone with the holographic displays and a growing sense that his world had just shifted on its axis. 25 minutes later, they stood in the ship's drop bay, suited up for surface operations. The atmosphere on Kepler 442b was technically breathable for both species, but the environmental suits provided additional protection against the planet's frequent dust storms and electromagnetic anomalies. Lyris Nathan found it impossible to think of her as Liriana, now stood with the rest of the survey team, her bio-armor having adapted to the surface suit requirements. She hadn't spoken to him since their encounter in the lounge, but he could feel her presence like a constant electrical charge in the air. Dr. Sarah Chen, the mission's lead archaeologist, was reviewing the surface scans one final time. The tall, methodical woman had spent the better part of her career studying pre-contact civilizations, and this planet promised to be her greatest discovery. The structures appear to be intact. Dr. Chen announced, her voice tinny through the comm system. Preliminary scans suggest they're approximately 10,000 years old, predating any known spacefaring civilization in this region. Orders? Asked Sergeant Marcus Holloway, the mission's military commander. The burly Terran kept his hand casually near his weapon, a habit that never seemed to leave soldiers even in supposedly peaceful missions. Standard survey protocols, Dr. Chen replied. Teams of 2 for safety. Read your with Warrior Veltar. Your neural enhancements should complement her sensory capabilities. Nathan caught Lyris's sharp intake of breath. Their eyes met across the drop bay, and he saw something flicker in her violet gaze, surprise and concern, and something else he couldn't quite identify. The planet's surface was a study in desolation and beauty. Rust-colored sand stretched to the horizon, broken by crystalline formations that caught and refracted the binary sun's light into dazzling displays. In the distance, the alien structures rose like metal flowers, their surfaces reflecting the sky in impossible ways. Nathan and Lyris moved across the landscape in practiced silence, their instruments sweeping for any signs of danger or archaeological significance. The gravity here was slightly lighter than standard, giving their movements a subtle floating quality. Contact, Lyris said suddenly, her hand moving to her weapon. 2,000 meters bearing 037. Nathan's enhanced vision zoomed in on the specified location. Movement patterns suggest Draxian scouts, 3 individuals moving to flank our position. The Draxians were a hostile species known for their raiding tactics and particular hatred for both Terrans and Shindari. Their presence here was both unexpected and potentially catastrophic for the mission. Command, this is Survey Team Alpha. Nathan spoke into his comm. We have Draxian contacts. Recommend immediate defensive positions. Copy that, Team Alpha. Reinforcements en route. Maintain position and observe. Lyris had already moved behind a crystalline formation, her weapon charged and ready. Nathan took position behind a cluster of ancient metal artifacts, his enhanced reflexes tracking multiple threat vectors simultaneously. Your neural modifications, Lyris said quietly through their direct channel. How extensive are they? Nathan hesitated. The details of his enhancements were classified, but given their current situation, cognitive processing, enhanced reflexes, improved sensory input, standard special forces package with some experimental additions. Experimental. There was something in her voice now, a mixture of curiosity and what sounded almost like recognition. Pattern recognition, predictive analysis. Some say it borders on precognition, but that's just enhanced data processing and probability calculation. The Draxian scouts had moved closer, their insectoid forms skittering between the ruins with unnatural speed. Nathan's implants cataloged their movement patterns, predicted their most likely attack vectors. They're hurting us, he realized. 3 visible, but there are at least 2 more we can't see. They want us to. The attack came from above. Draxian warriors dropped from concealed positions in the ancient structures, their shriek echoing across the desolate landscape. Nathan's enhanced reflexes kicked in time, seeming to slow, as his neural implants calculated trajectories and threats. But it was Lyris who moved first. The Shindari warrior flowed like liquid lightning, her weapon charging with a sound like thunder. Energy bolts lanced out, catching 2 of the attackers mid-leap. But there were more. Nathan's count had been conservative. 7 hostiles. He called out, his own weapon speaking in rapid, measured bursts. More incoming from the ruins. They fought like a team that had trained together for years, rather than 3 weeks. Nathan's predictive capabilities seemed to mesh perfectly with Lyris's intuitive combat style, each covering the other's vulnerabilities before they even emerged. A Draxian warrior managed to get close enough to engage in melee combat. Lyris met it with her vibroblade, the weapon humming as it cut through the alien's natural armor. But the creature's claws raked across her suit, tearing through the outer layer. Lyris! Nathan's shout came from somewhere deeper than tactical necessity. He was moving before he could think, his enhanced body carrying him across the battlefield, faster than should have been possible. The Draxian raised its weapon for a killing blow. Nathan's world narrowed to a single point of focus, protecting her. His neural implants surged, drawing power from his suit's systems in ways they'd never been designed for. Time seemed to crystallize. Nathan could see every mote of sand, every reflection in the ancient structures, every micro-expression on Lyris's face as she realized what was happening. His enhancements weren't just predicting now, they were reaching into possibilities, selecting the outcome he desired from quantum probability streams. He struck the Draxian warrior with enough force to crater the ground where it landed. The silence that followed was deafening. The remaining Draxians, sensing some change in the battle's dynamics, retreated into the ruins. Nathan stood over Lyris, his chest heaving, his neural implants screaming warnings about system overload. Nathan, Lyris's voice seemed to come from very far away. Your eyes. He looked down at her and she drew back slightly. They're glowing. Before either could process what had happened, reinforcements arrived. Dr. Chen, Sergeant Holloway, and the rest of the team swept the area, pushing the Draxians back into the deep ruins. Status report, Holloway demanded. Minor injuries? Lyris replied, getting to her feet. Nathan noticed she kept looking at him strangely. They seemed to be after something in the ruins rather than trying to eliminate us. Dr. Chen's eyes lit up with scientific fervor. Did you get any readings on what they might have been seeking? Negative. Nathan answered, surprised by how normal his voice sounded. But there were definitely more of them than initial scans suggested. As the team secured the area, Lyris approached Nathan. We need to talk, she said quietly. About what just happened. About what you did. Nathan nodded, his neural implants still sending cascading error messages through his visual field. Yeah, we do. That evening, aboard the Meridian, Nathan sat in his quarters, staring at his hands. According to his suit's biomonitors, He had somehow channeled power levels that should have killed him. The neural enhancement protocols had warnings against exactly the kind of overload he'd experienced. A soft chime announced a visitor. Enter. Laris stepped through the door no longer in her combat gear. She wore a simple Shindari garment that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Her sunset skin seemed subdued in the artificial lighting, but her eyes remained intensely violet. "How are you feeling?" she asked, sitting across from him. "Like I should be dead." Nathan met her gaze. "My implants pushed beyond every safety parameter. I saw things that shouldn't be possible." "What did you see?" Nathan hesitated. How could he explain the sensation of reaching into quantum possibilities, of selecting reality from a menu of potential outcomes? "I saw ways to save you. All of them. And I chose the one where you survived." Lyris was quiet for a long moment. "Nathan, do you know why my people guard our true names so carefully? Cultural significance, religious reasons, power." The word hung between them like a physical thing. True names among the Shindari are tied to our essential nature. They're keys to our souls, our abilities, our connections to others. Nathan felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Lyris, what are you saying? When you spoke my true name, you didn't just guess. You connected with something deeper." She stood moving to the small viewport that showed the stars. "And now, after seeing what you did today, after seeing me nearly die from neural overload," she turned back to him, and Nathan saw something in her expression that made his breath catch. "After seeing you rewrite probability itself to save my life." The air in the small cabin seemed to thicken. "That's impossible." "Is it?" Lyris approached him slowly, like someone trying not to spook a wild animal. "You have neural enhancements from a military program that officially doesn't exist. I recognized the signs, the way your eyes changed, the energy readings I picked up from my suit's sensors." Nathan stood as well, suddenly feeling trapped. "What signs, Lyris? What aren't you telling me?" "I'm what my people call Virantal. Roughly translated, it means bridge builder or connection forger. We're rare even among the Shindari. Our purpose?" She paused, seeming to wrestle with something. "Our purpose is to create bonds between species, to facilitate understanding and cooperation." "You're saying you're some kind of diplomat." "I'm saying I'm designed for it, bred for it." The words came out bitter raw. "My genetic code isn't entirely natural, Nathan. Just like your neural enhancements aren't entirely standard." The implications hit Nathan like a physical blow. "You think our governments—" "I think we were placed together for a reason." Lyris reached out her fingers, barely grazing his hand. "I think your ability to speak my true name, your neural overload when I was in danger, the way your enhancements seemed to evolve in real time, none of that is coincidence." Nathan pulled his hand away, pacing to the other side of the small room. "You're suggesting we're some kind of experiment." "I'm suggesting we're pawns in something larger than ourselves." Lyris's voice carried a weight of years of slowly dawning understanding. "The question is, what do we do about it?" Before Nathan could answer, the ship's alarm system activated. Emergency lights bathed the room in a red glow as the captain's voice echoed through the corridors. "All hands to stations. We have incoming vessels. Multiple contacts, unknown configuration. This is not a drill." Nathan and Lyris looked at each other for a split second, then moved as one toward the door. Whatever personal revelations they'd been sharing would have to wait. The ship needed them. The bridge was chaos when they arrived. Captain Rodriguez, a career Terran Navy officer, was barking orders while displays showed a terrifying sight. A fleet of ships emerging from hyperspace, their design unlike anything in known databases. "Dr. Chen, what's the status on the archaeological site?" Rodriguez demanded. "Still active, sir. The Draxian attack seems to have triggered something in the ancient structures. We're reading massive energy spikes." Nathan's enhanced visions picked up details on the displays that others might miss. "Captain, those ships, their configuration suggests they're not here for conquest. Look at the formation." "Reed's right. Sergeant Holloway added grimly. That's an extraction pattern. They're here for something specific. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes focused on something in the data streams. The archaeological site. Whatever the Draxians were after, these ships want it too. New contacts, the sensor officer called out. Draxian vessels bearing 27 Mark V. They're moving to intercept the unknown fleet. On the main display space erupted into chaos. The unknown vessels, sleek, organic-looking craft that seemed to shift and flow, even in the vacuum of space, engaged both the Draxian fleet and any ship that came too close to the planet. Sir, Nathan said, stepping closer to the command station. Recommend we evacuate the surface teams immediately. Negative, Dr. Chen interjected. We're on the verge of a breakthrough. Those energy readings will mean nothing if we're all dead, Lyris finished coolly. Captain Rodriguez made the decision. All surface teams, immediate extraction. We're getting out of here. But as they watched, the organic ships moved to surround the planet, creating an impenetrable barrier. One of them, larger than the rest, approached the meridian. Incoming transmission communications reported. Audio only, unknown language. Let's hear it. The bridge filled with a sound that was part voice, part music, part something else entirely. It seemed to resonate in Nathan's bones, triggering responses from his neural implants that he didn't understand. Beside him, Lyris gasped. I can understand it. All eyes turned to her. Speak. They're not hostile, she said slowly, her forehead creased in concentration. They're older than we thought, much older, and they've come because of what's happening on the planet. Lyris, Nathan said quietly, this is the same language that's written throughout the ruins, isn't it? She nodded, her face pale. Nathan, I think we've made a terrible mistake. These aren't ruins. They're safeguards. The organic ship moved closer, and the transmission changed. This time, Nathan felt his impedance responding, translating concepts directly into his consciousness. They say the safeguards have been compromised, he said, his voice hollow, and that we, the archaeological expedition we triggered, something that was meant to stay sealed. Captain Rodriguez straightened. What kind of something? Before either Nathan or Lyris could answer, the planet below began to change. The ruins that had stood for millennia started to glow, their light visible, even from orbit. Energy arced between the structures, creating patterns of impossible complexity. Bioreadings are off the charts, the science officer reported. The energy signature it's not just electromagnetic. There's something else, something that's affecting local space-time. Nathan felt his neural implants surge again, but this time the sensation was different. Instead of parsing data or predicting combat patterns, they seemed to be reaching toward the planet, towards something vast and ancient, stirring below. The Draxians, Lyris breathed. They didn't come here by chance. They knew what was down there. And what is down there? Rodriguez demanded. The answer came not from Lyris or Nathan, but from the organic ship itself. The transmission resumed, and this time both of them could understand it clearly. A conscience, Lyris translated, her voice filled with growing horror. A collective consciousness that was imprisoned here because it tried to harmonize all life in this galaxy, to make everything one. Nathan's hands clenched into fists as his implants showed him flashes of information. Probability cascades, potential futures, the shape of what was waking below. It's not just a consciousness, it's a force. Something that can rewrite matter at the quantum level, reshape biology according to its will. And the Draxians want to free it, Rodriguez asked. No, Nathan and Lyris said simultaneously. Then Nathan continued, they want to control it, to use it as a weapon. The bridge went silent, except for the hum of ship systems and the increasingly frantic beeping of sensors. On the displays, they could see Draxian ships engaging the organic vessels, while energy from the planet created an aurora that painted space in impossible colors. Sir, the navigation officer spoke up. The hyperspace lanes are closing. Whatever's happening down there, it's affecting the fundamental structure of space in this region. We're trapped, Rodriguez said grimly. Lyris stepped forward. Not necessarily. Captain, if those organic ships have been guarding this place for millennia, they might have technology we can use. And if Nathan and I can communicate with them, you're suggesting an alliance with unknowns while an ancient superweapon wakes up. Rodriguez shook his head. That's insane. Sir, Nathan said quietly. With respect, we're already past insane. And I'm starting to think Lyris and I weren't put together by chance. Our abilities, the way we complement each other, maybe we were meant for something like this. Lyris looked at him with surprise, then something warmer. You're willing to trust that even knowing we might be pawns? I'm willing to trust you, Nathan replied, his enhanced hearing picking up her slight intake of breath. Whatever else is true, that hasn't changed. Captain Rodriguez studied them both for a long moment. Against my better judgment, Dr. Chen, can your teams maintain position in the ruins? The energy levels are fluctuating, but yes, sir. We might even be able to learn something about what's happening. Holloway, take a team and reinforce the surface positions. Reed, Warrior, Veltar, take a shuttle to that organic ship. See if you can establish better communication. As they prepared to leave the bridge, Lyris caught Nathan's arm. Before we do this, she said quietly, there's something else you should know about Shindari neurobiology and what happens when we bond with someone. Nathan felt something clench in his chest. Bond. When you spoke my true name, when our combat styles synchronized so perfectly, when your enhancements evolved to save my life. She looked up at him, vulnerable in a way he'd never seen before. Among my people, those are the signs of Velmira, soul bonding. And if we're right about being engineered for this, Nathan asked, already knowing the answer. Then we were designed to bond. Our governments wanted to create the perfect diplomatic team bridge, two species through a connection deeper than mere cooperation. Her laugh held no humor. We're the prototype for a new kind of relationship between our peoples. Nathan was quiet for a moment, processing. Then he reached out and took her hand. Whatever brought us together, engineered coincidence or fate, what happens next is our choice. Lyris's fingers intertwined with his. Together. Together. The shuttle bay was a flurry of activity as they prepared for launch. The organic ship had transmitted docking coordinates, and Nathan found himself checking and rechecking their translation algorithms. His neural implants felt different, now more responsive, as if they were adapting to this new reality. Reed, Veltar. Sergeant Holloway approached them. You know this is probably suicide. Probably? Lyris agreed cheerfully. But staying here definitely is. The shuttle launched smoothly, crossing the space between vessels, while weapons fire lit up the space around them. The organic ship was even stranger up close. Its hull seemed to pulse with a heartbeat, and patterns shifted across its surface like living things. As they approached the docking bay, Nathan felt his implants react again. Lyris, he said slowly, I'm getting readings that don't make sense. This ship? I don't think it's made of matter as we understand it. What do you mean? It's like it exists in multiple quantum states simultaneously. Solid when it needs to be, energy when it chooses to be, and sometimes he looked at his instruments again. Sometimes it doesn't exist at all. The docking was smoother than either had expected. As they entered the organic ship's atmosphere, Nathan heard Lyris gasp. Nathan, she whispered, look at this. The interior of the ship was breathtaking. Walls curved in impossible ways, surfaces that seemed solid proved to be permeable when approached, and everywhere light moved like living things. But it was the occupants that made them both stop in wonder. The beings that greeted them were humanoid, but seemed to be made of the same shifting material as their ship. Their features were fluid, changing subtly as Nathan and Lyris watched. But their eyes held depths that suggested intelligence spanning millennia. Welcome? One of them said, its voice speaking directly in their minds. We are the Keepers. We have long awaited the bound ones. Bound ones? Nathan asked. You who carry the bridge-maker's gift, the keeper gestured to Lyris, and you who bear the pattern weaver's touch. Its attention shifted to Nathan. 2 species, 2 abilities, 1 purpose. Lyris stepped forward. You know why we're here, the conscience below. Wakes with the interference of the quick death seekers. Another keeper interrupted. The Draxians understand only destruction. They would use the conscience as a weapon, not understanding that it seeks only unity. Unity through absorption. All thought, all being, all life, one. Nathan felt cold. And that's what you've been guarding against. For 10,000 rotations, we have maintained the barriers, but the quick death seekers have learned to pierce our defenses, and the conscience stirs. Soon, it will wake fully. What happens then? Lyris asked. The keepers exchange something, not words, but a flow of communication too rapid for human or Shindari minds to follow. Finally, the first speaker continued. The conscience will reach out, first to this world, then to others. All thinking beings will become part of its whole. Individuality will cease. Time, as you understand it, will end. Nathan's implants were racing through calculations. But you said Lyris and I were expected. The bound ones. We have a role in this. The conscience can be influenced, shaped. In the moment of its awakening, before it gains full strength, it is vulnerable to those who know how to reach it. The keeper gestured, and images filled the air around them, complex diagrams that seemed to shift and change, showing patterns within patterns. Our peoples designed you both for this moment. Another keeper added. Not just Terran or Shindari science, but technologies we shared with them, in dreams and visions, guiding their creation of ones who could stand between awakening doom and continuing existence. Lyris's hand found Nathan's. You're saying our governments didn't just engineer us for diplomacy? They were preparing us for this. The signs were there in your archives, your myths. The first keeper confirmed. All species in this galaxy have legends of the harmony that nearly was the conscience that would make all into one. Your people's leaders recognized the signs of its stirring and acted according to the ancient patterns. Nathan felt a surge of anger. So we're what, sacrificial lambs? No. The keeper's mental voice carried surprising warmth. You are hope. The patterns say that 2 bound deeply enough sharing abilities that complement perfectly might be able to touch the conscience without being absorbed, to show it a different path. And if we can't, Lyris asked, then all of this, all consciousness, all individuality, all beauty and difference becomes one gray sameness forever. The ship shuddered around them as weapons fire struck the hull. Through the organic walls, they could see flashes of the battle raging outside. The quick death seekers grow desperate. A keeper observed. They sense the consciences stirring and know their time grows short. Nathan made a decision. How do we reach the conscience? The keepers gestured, and the air filled with new patterns. The ancient structures on the world below are focusing points. The conscience rests in a quantum state beneath them, but it extends through them when it stirs. You must go to the greatest of the structures, the one your kind have not yet explored. The pyramid at the northern site, Lyris breathed. Our scans showed it was collapsed. Not collapsed, closed. Now it opens as the conscience stirs. Another shudder ran through the ship. This time, Nathan heard something that chilled him, the high-pitched whine of Draxian boarding pods. They're boarding, he told Lyris. Then we leave now, she replied, turning to the keepers. How do we reach the conscience once we're at this pyramid? You go within, you descend, and you let your bond guide you. The deeper connection between you is key. Your abilities are meant to work in harmony, to show the conscience another way to achieve unity. Not through absorption, but through... The keeper paused as if searching for words. Through chosen connection. Through bonds freely given. The sounds of battle grew closer. Nathan's enhanced hearing picked up the characteristic weapon signatures of Draxian warriors. We need to go. Now. The keepers gestured, and a section of the ship's wall simply opened, revealing their shuttle still held gently in what had appeared to be solid hull. Go. We will hold them as long as we can. The pattern says this chance will not come again. As they ran for their shuttle, Lyris grabbed Nathan's arm. Nathan, about the bonding. I know, he said, sealing his helmet. Whatever we're facing down there, we face it completely connected. I understand. The shuttle launched into chaos, space around them filled with weapon-fire debris from destroyed ships and the eerie auroral light streaming from the planet below. Nathan's enhanced reflexes kept them alive through the first few seconds, but it was Lyris who spotted their path. There, she pointed. The Draxian formation. They're concentrating on something near the northern hemisphere. Nathan saw it too. While most of the fleet battled the Keeper's ships, a significant force was moving toward the planet, toward the archaeological sites. They're going for the pyramid too, he realized. Then we race them, Lyris said grimly. The shuttle screamed through the atmosphere, pushing beyond safe limits. Nathan's implants interfaced with the ship's systems, pushing performance envelopes, while Lyris's intuitive understanding of flight dynamics kept them from burning up. The planet's surface was chaos. The energy emanating from the ancient structures had triggered massive storms, turning the sky into a kaleidoscope of impossible colors. Lightning that wasn't quite lightning arced between the ruins, and the air itself seemed thick with something, potential, power, ancient awakening. There, Lyris pointed ahead. The pyramid. Nathan's enhanced vision picked it up. First, what they'd thought was a collapsed structure was actually something far more complex. The rubble was moving, rearranging itself into new configurations. As they watched, it rose from the sand like a living thing, its surfaces covered in patterns that hurt to look at directly. It's beautiful, Lyris whispered. And terrifying, Nathan added. They sat down as close as they could get. The energy coming from the pyramid was disrupting their systems, making the shuttle's computers scream warnings. As they stepped out, Nathan felt his neural implants respond to something in the very air. Do you feel that? Lyris asked. Like something vast and old waking up, Nathan confirmed. And it's curious about us. The pyramid loomed above them, its apex lost in the energy maelstrom swirling around it. But at its base, a doorway had appeared, or perhaps it had always been there, simply hidden until now. Last chance to back out, Nathan told Lyris. She took his hand, and Nathan felt that click of connection, that sense of two parts of a whole coming together. We do this together. They approached the doorway, and as they crossed the threshold, reality shifted around them. The interior of the pyramid was impossibly vast, defying the structure's external dimensions. They stood on a platform suspended in... Nathan's implants struggled to process what he was seeing. Space that folded in on itself, time that moved in spirals, energy that took forms almost like living things. Nathan. Lyris's voice carried a strange echo. My abilities. They're responding to everything here. Nathan felt it too. His neural enhancements weren't just processing information anymore. They were reaching out, touching something immense and alien and undeniably conscious. It knows we're here, he said. The voice, when it came, wasn't heard, but felt a vibration that ran through every atom of their beings. Bridge builders, pattern weavers, you have come to the awakening. Lyris squeezed Nathan's hand tighter. We've come to talk. Amusement rippled through the vast presence. Talk. Yes, I remember talk. Individual voices, so many perspectives, so much noise. I offer silence, unity. One voice, one thought, one purpose. But what about choice? Nathan asked. His implants somehow translating his meaning into concepts the conscience could understand. What about the beauty in difference? Show me, the voice replied. Suddenly, they were no longer standing on a platform. They existed within the conscience itself, experiencing its perspective. Eons of existence watching countless species rise and fall. Seeing the pain caused by division, the wars started by difference. The suffering born of individuality. I can end all suffering, the conscience showed them. All minds as one mind, all purposes aligned, perfect efficiency, perfect peace, perfect emptiness, Lyris countered. And Nathan felt her pour her essence into the argument. She showed the conscience moments of beauty the way the different cultures created different art. The joy of discovery that came from encountering new perspectives, the growth that only happened through challenge and difference. Nathan added his own perspective, his implants working in perfect harmony with Lyris's abilities. He showed the conscience the value of individual achievement, the strength that came from unity by choice rather than compulsion, the dynamic beauty of cooperation between different minds. But the conscience's pull was immense. Nathan felt his thoughts beginning to blur his identity, starting to dissolve into the vast wholeness. Beside him, Lyris was fighting the same dissolution. Together, Nathan managed to say. They reached for each other not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Their bond engineered, developed, or simply meant to be became their anchor. In their connection, the conscience saw something it hadn't considered. This, Nathan projected, showing the entity their partnership. Unity without loss of self, strength through chosen connection. Two who become more than the sum of their parts. Lyris added, but remain themselves. The conscience paused in its expansion, considering. Through their bond, Nathan and Lyris felt its vast processing power, examining their relationship. Their abilities, the way they complemented and completed each other while remaining distinct. Fascinating, it finally said. You propose a different form of harmony. We propose choice, Nathan said. The chance for beings to connect by their own will to share and grow together while retaining what makes them unique. The old way brought pain, the conscience observed. And the new way brings growth, Lyris replied. Yes, there's pain sometimes. But there's also joy, discovery, love, things that can only exist with individual will. Nathan felt the entity weighing their words, and he made a desperate gamble. Opening his neural implants completely, he projected not just concepts but raw feeling, his growing love for Lyris, his admiration for her strength, the way she challenged him to be better. And through their bond, he felt her doing the same, sharing her feelings, her wonder at his abilities, her surprise at finding someone who truly understood her. The conscience's attention focused on them with painful intensity. Show me more. What followed was unlike anything either had experienced. They lived through moments of connection from across the galaxy. Terran couples finding love across differences. Shindari warriors bonding in battle. Even brief glimpses of Draxian hive minds choosing cooperation over conquest. This is what you offer instead of absorption, the conscience asked. This is what existence can be, Lyris confirmed, when beings choose to connect rather than being forced to unite. Nathan felt the moment of decision approach like a tidal wave. The conscience was vast, powerful, capable of reshaping reality itself, but it was also lonely. Eons of isolation had warped its perspective. You would teach me this chosen connection? The entity asked. We would share it with you, Nathan replied carefully, as an equal, not as subjects to be absorbed. And if I choose not to learn, if I continue my awakening, Lyris's hand tightened in Nathan's, then we'll oppose you. Not because we want to, but because we must, because choice is worth fighting for. The conscience was silent for a long time. Around them, the pyramid thrummed with energy, and Nathan's implants showed him that the entity was processing more data than any human or Shindari mind could comprehend. Very well, it finally said. I will experiment with this chosen connection, but I require guides, ones who understand both separation and unity. You want us to be go-betweens? Nathan asked. Between you and the rest of the galaxy. Between isolation and absorption. Yes. The presence seemed amused. You are already such bridges between your peoples. This would merely expand your role. Lyris looked at Nathan, and in her eyes, he saw the same mixture of fear and determination he felt. What would that mean exactly? You would remain yourselves, but you would carry a part of me with you, a seed of connection that you could share with others. Those who choose to join would experience the unity you show me, the growth through connection. Those who refuse would remain untouched. Nathan's implants raced through implications, a new kind of evolution, not forced, but offered. And in return, Lyris asked, I learn. Through you, through the connections you forge, I experience this chosen unity you speak of. If it proves satisfying, I will not impose the absorption. I will offer choice. It was a massive gamble. Nathan could feel the weight of potential futures bearing down on them. Accept and they became something more than human or Shindari cosmic facilitators of a new kind of consciousness. Refuse and face a battle they couldn't win against an entity that could rewrite existence itself. Together, Nathan asked Lyris. Together, she confirmed. We accept, they said in unison. What happened next was beyond description. The conscience didn't just speak to them, it became part of them, but not by absorption. Instead, it was like gaining a new sense. Nathan could suddenly feel the connections between all living things, not as a threat to individuality, but as a web of potential. Lyris's eyes widened as she experienced something similar. It's beautiful, she whispered. It's overwhelming. Nathan added his implants, recalibrating to handle this new input. You will adapt, the conscience assured them. And you will teach me. Show me how connection by choice creates something greater than absorption. Around them, the pyramid began to change. The chaotic energy settled into new patterns, and Nathan realized they were no longer in the structure itself, but in a space between spaces, a neutral ground where entities could meet as equals. What about the Draxians? Lyris asked. They're still trying to reach here. They seek to use me as a weapon, the conscience replied. Now they will find something different. Nathan suddenly understood. You're going to offer them the same choice. All will be offered choice, but force will be met with appropriate response. They were back on the pyramid's exterior. Suddenly, the transition so smooth, it left Nathan momentarily disoriented. The structure hummed with new energy, but it was different now, inviting, rather than overwhelming. Nathan, Lyris said softly, look at your hands. He held them up and gasped. His neural implants were glowing softly beneath his skin, but it wasn't threatening. It was like starlight made solid. When he looked at Lyris, he saw a similar soft luminescence in her violet eyes. We're changed, he said. We're evolved, she corrected, taking his hand. The question is, what do we do now? Their answer came in the form of approaching ships. The Draxian force that had been heading for the pyramid was pulling back, but the Terran and Shindari vessels from the Meridian were approaching. They're probably terrified, Nathan observed. Can't blame them, Lyris agreed. Should we go to them? Together, Nathan said, and it was already becoming their motto. As they walked toward the shuttle, Nathan felt the new awareness settle into something manageable. The conscience was there, but distant, a perspective he could access, rather than a voice in his head. Through his enhanced connection with Lyris, he could feel her experiencing something similar. You know, Lyris said as they reached their ship, this is definitely not how I expected this mission to go. Nathan laughed, surprised by the normalcy of the sound in such an extraordinary moment. That morning when you joked about marriage seems like a lifetime ago. Does it? Lyris stopped at the shuttle's airlock, turning to face him fully. Because I wasn't entirely joking. Nathan felt something warm and electric pass between them, amplified by their new connection, but rooted in something entirely human or Shindari. Neither was I, he admitted. They might have stood there longer, lost in the moment, but their personal comm channels crackled to life. Nathan, Lyris, what's your status? It was Captain Rodriguez, concern thick in his voice. "Alive, sir," Nathan replied. "And things have changed. We have a lot to explain." The journey back to the Meridian was surreal. Below them, the pyramid continued its reshaping, but peacefully now. Above them, space no longer showed the chaos of battle. The organic keeper ships had withdrawn to a respectful distance, while the Draxian fleet— "Are they retreating?" Lyris asked, checking the instruments. "No." Nathan realized his enhanced perception picking up something others would miss. They're being shown the choice. Look at their formation. It's not tactical anymore, they're considering. Aboard the Meridian, they were met with a mixture of relief, suspicion, and outright fear. Captain Rodriguez took one look at Nathan's softly glowing neural implants and Lyris's luminescent eyes and stepped back. "What happened to you?" he demanded. "We made contact," Lyris replied simply. "And we made a choice." The debriefing that followed was one of the most difficult conversations of Nathan's life. How do you explain to a ship of scientists and soldiers that the universe has fundamentally changed? That consciousness itself has evolved. So this conscience suit. Dr. Chen leaned forward. It's willing to leave people alone if they choose not to join it. Choice is the key, Nathan confirmed. But the choice comes with understanding. When we share this connection, people will see what it offers. Some will want to join. Others won't. Both are acceptable. "And you two?" Sergeant Holloway asked bluntly. "What are you now?" Lyris and Nathan exchanged glances. Through their bond, they shared the question that had been underlying everything else. "We're us," Lyris said finally. "Changed, enhanced, connected to something larger, but still us. Nathan is still human. I'm still Shindari. But we're also something new. A bridge," Nathan added, "between what was and what could be." Over the following hours, and as the full implications became clear, Nathan and Lyris found themselves at the center of the biggest paradigm shift in galactic history. The conscience kept its word choice, was offered, not forced. Those who wished to experience the enhanced connection could touch it through Nathan and Lyris. Others simply continued their lives unchanged. The Draxians surprisingly proved to be among the most enthusiastic early adopters. Their hive mind nature made them naturals for the enhanced connection, but they reveled in the fact that it was chosen rather than imposed. But through it all, the most important change was personal. 3 days after the awakening, Nathan found Lyris on the Meridian's observation deck watching the stars. "No regrets?" he asked, joining her at the viewport. "About saving the galaxy from forced unification?" "Not really." She laughed, and the sound carried harmonics. It hadn't before echoes of the conscience's vast amusement, but still entirely her own. "About finding you, definitely not." Nathan took her hand, marveling at how their connection had deepened. They could share thoughts now if they chose experience. Each other's perspectives fill each other's emotions, but they were still individuals, still capable of surprise, still able to discover new things about each other. "There's something I want to ask you," Nathan said, his enhanced hearing picking up the slight acceleration of her pulse. "Oh." Nathan knelt, pulling a small object from his pocket. It wasn't a traditional ring. Human customs seemed quaint in the face of cosmic consciousness, but rather a small device that would allow their unique bond to manifest visually, creating shared patterns of light around them. "Lyris," he said, her true name still carrying power between them. "I don't know if we were brought together by design, by chance, or by fate. But I know that I want to spend whatever comes next. Human lifetime, enhanced existence, or eternity with you. Will you marry me? Not because a joke became real, but because I love you." Lyris's laughter bubbled up like mountain springs, clear and joyful. "Nathan Reed," she said, "you still don't quite understand Shindari customs, do you?" His face fell slightly. When you spoke my true name," she interrupted gently, "when I accepted our bond, that was our engagement by Shindari law. when we connected consciousnesses to face the conscience together that was our wedding. Nathan blinked, his implants processing this. So we're already married by Shindari standards, yes. By human standards. She gestured to the device in his hands. We still need this ceremony. And I accept. Yes, Nathan. In every tradition, by every law, with every part of my being, yes. As he slipped the device onto her finger, the light patterns it created were joined by something else. The conscience's blessing manifesting as aurora-like displays that danced around them. But more than that, Nathan felt the rightness of it, the sense of two halves becoming whole while remaining individuals. You know, Lyris said, as they watched their light patterns merge and flow, I lied about something. What? The odds of you guessing my true name? They weren't 3,000,000 to 1. Nathan raised an eyebrow. No. They were exactly 1 to 1, she said, rising to wrap her arms around him. Because you were always meant to speak it. That's what I understand. Now your neural patterns, my biomarkers, our compatibility. We weren't just designed to work together or bridge our species. We were designed to fall in love. Nathan finished, finally understanding. And to choose to stay together, Lyris confirmed, despite knowing we were designed for it. That's the real miracle, knowing we were made for each other and choosing each other anyway. As they kissed, the stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, and across the galaxy, new connections sparked into existence. The conscience learned moment by moment what it meant to choose unity rather than impose it. But for Nathan and Lyris in that moment, the universe had narrowed to just them two individuals who had found in each other not just completion, but the beginning of infinite possibility. Ready for the adventure ahead? Nathan asked as they broke apart. With you. Lyris smiled, and her joy was written in starlight around them. I'm ready for anything. Outside the viewport, Kepler 442b had become something new, not a tomb or a threat, but a garden where consciousness could bloom in chosen unity. The pyramid gleamed like a beacon, inviting all who chose to come and experience connection without losing themselves. And aboard the Meridian, Nathan Reed and Lyris Veltar, two souls engineered to meet but free to choose, began their new existence together, serving as bridges, not just between species, but between isolation and connection, between what was and what could be. The stars had never shone so brightly. In the days that followed, as word spread across the galaxy of what had occurred on Kepler 442b, Nathan and Lyris found themselves at the center of a transformation unlike anything in known history. The conscience, true to its word, offered its gift of connection to all who wished it, while leaving others free to live as they always had. The changes weren't immediate or dramatic. Instead, they rippled outward like stones dropped in still water. A Terran diplomat shook hands with a Draxian trade representative, and through Nathan's demonstration of the connection, experienced true understanding for the first time. A Shindari scientist collaborated with a Keeper philosophist, both minds finding harmony without losing their essential natures. It's not what anyone expected, Nathan observed one evening as he and Lyris walked through the Meridian's corridors. No great battles, no dramatic transformations, just choice. The most radical thing of all. Lyris agreed, her hand warm in his. Their shared connection hummed between them, a constant reminder of what was possible when beings chose unity freely. Captain Rodriguez approached them, his expression thoughtful. We've received new orders, he announced. Both Terran Command and the Shindari Council are establishing a new organization. They're calling it the Convergence Initiative. Let me guess, Nathan said with a smile. We're to be its first ambassadors. More than that, Rodriguez replied. You're to lead it. The Council of Both Worlds, a name they've chosen to honor both. Your peoples wants you to explore the galaxy, offering what you've learned to any who will listen. Lyris's eyes sparkled with excitement. A diplomatic mission on a cosmic scale. There's more, Rodriguez continued. The Keepers have agreed to provide ship's vessels that exist in multiple quantum states capable of reaching any part of the galaxy almost instantly. They say it's time for the bound ones to fulfill their true purpose. Nathan felt the conscience stir at the edge of their awareness, its vast approval radiating through their connection. When do we leave? That's up to you, Rodriguez said. But Nathan, Lyris, be careful. Not everyone will welcome what you offer. Change frightens people. As the captain walked away, Nathan and Lyris stood in comfortable silence, processing the magnitude of what lay ahead. Second thoughts? Nathan asked after a moment. Lyris laughed, the sound carrying new harmonics of joy and determination. Are you kidding? We're going to travel the galaxy, teaching people about love and connection. It's like the best romantic adventure ever written. With the occasional fight for the future of consciousness, Nathan pointed out. That just makes it more interesting, Lyris replied, squeezing his hand. Besides, I have a theory. Oh, I think this is just the beginning. The conscience wasn't just seeking unity, it was evolving consciousness itself. And through us, through everyone who chooses this connection, something new is being born. Not human, not Shindari, not any single species, but something that encompasses them all while preserving what makes each unique. Nathan felt the truth of it through their bond, a new form of life, one that spans stars. And we get to be pioneers in exploring what that means. Lyris grinned. Lucky us. 3 weeks later, they stood in the docking bay of their new vessel, a ship that seemed to exist in a constant state of beautiful impossibility. Its hull shifted between states of matter, sometimes solid metal, sometimes flowing energy, sometimes barely there at all. The keepers had named it Synthesis. Ready? Nathan asked, his hand resting on the ship's gangway. Through his neural implants, he could feel the vessel responding to his touch, welcoming them. Always, Lyris replied, but she paused before boarding. Nathan, do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't joked about marriage, if you hadn't guessed my name? Nathan considered it, his enhanced cognition running through probability cascades. I think we would have found each other anyway. Different path, same destination. Some connections transcend design. Even if we're the product of genetic engineering and neural enhancement. Especially then, Nathan said firmly. They could engineer our capabilities, our physical compatibility, even our psychological patterns. But they couldn't engineer our choice to love each other. That's ours. As they boarded Synthesis, the ship's systems came alive around them. Through their connection both to each other and to the conscience, they felt the vessel's eagerness to begin their mission. First stop? Lyris asked as they settled into the command center. Nathan smiled, his fingers moving over controls that responded to thought as much as touch. There's a small system about 3 parsecs from here. 2 species locked in a territorial dispute for the past 50 years. Perfect place to start offering choices. Think they'll listen. Some will, some won't. But we'll give them the opportunity. As Synthesis slipped into the quantum streams between stars, Nathan and Lyris stood together watching the universe blur past. They were heading into the unknown, carrying with them a gift that could transform consciousness itself. You know, Lyris said thoughtfully, your joke turned out to be prophetic. What joke? About hoping for an adventure. This is definitely not the kind of mission we signed up for. Nathan laughed, pulling her closer. Best adventure ever, though. And we're just getting started. Lyris agreed, leaning into his embrace. Imagine what our children will think of all this. Nathan's enhanced processing power stumbled for a moment. Children? Eventually, she said with an impish smile. Though I imagine explaining to them that Mommy and Daddy helped save the galaxy might be interesting. As Synthesis emerged from the quantum stream approaching their first destination, Nathan felt a sense of profound contentment despite the challenges ahead. They were exploring uncharted territory both literally and figuratively. They were pioneers of consciousness, ambassadors of choice, and partners in the deepest sense possible. Whatever comes next, he said, watching the stars resolve from streams of light back into individual points of hope. We face it together. Together, Lyris confirmed, and in that word was a promise, a prayer, and a celebration of love that transcended species engineering and even consciousness itself. The first system they approached was in the midst of a diplomatic crisis. The Zorith and the Kulani had been fighting over mineral rights to a moon for 57 years, their mutual hatred now etched into their very cultures. Standard approach, Lyris asked as they received the expected challenges from both fleets. When has anything about us ever been standard? Nathan replied with a grin. But yes, let's start with talking. What followed were 3 days of the most intense negotiations either had experienced. The Zorith delegation, insectoid beings with compound eyes that missed nothing, were deeply suspicious of any outside interference. The Kulani, whose crystalline forms made their emotions literally transparent, were more open but cautious. It was during the second day, when negotiations had stalled completely, that Nathan made an offer that changed everything. Experience our connection, he said simply. Not to join it, but to understand what we offer. The Kulani delegate, her crystal facets shifting to show confusion, spoke first. You would share this consciousness with us, without requiring commitment. Choice requires understanding, Lyris added. We ask nothing except that you try to see what we see. What happened next was transcendent. As the Zorith and Kulani delegates experienced the connection, feeling their ancient hatred dissolve in the face of true understanding, Nathan and Lyris felt their own bond deepen. Through the conscience, they witnessed the exact moment when beings chose peace over perpetual conflict. This is what you offer. The Zorith delegate's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. This understanding. We offer choice, Nathan corrected gently. The understanding is just a glimpse of what's possible. By the third day, a treaty was signed. Not because the Zorith and Kulani had been forced to compromise, but because they had chosen to, after seeing through each other's perspectives and finding unexpected common ground. As synthesis departed the system, Nathan and Lyris stood on the observation deck watching space unfold before them. 57 years of hatred, Lyris mused, ended in 3 days. Not ended, Nathan corrected. Transformed, they chose a different path. The conscience seems pleased, Lyris observed, feeling the vast entity's satisfaction through their bond. It's learning, Nathan agreed. Every choice validates its decision to offer rather than impose. They visited 17 systems in their first year. Sometimes they succeeded in mediating conflicts. Sometimes they simply planted seeds of possibility. Occasionally, they faced outright hostility from those who saw change as threat. It was during a particularly tense negotiation with the hegemony of 5 suns that they discovered something unexpected about their abilities. The hegemony representatives had been growing increasingly agitated as Nathan and Lyris explained their mission. Finally, the lead delegate, a being whose species Nathan's databases couldn't identify, stood abruptly. Enough, the delegate declared. You speak of choice, but you are clearly agents of the very force you claim serves voluntary consciousness. You will leave now, or we will ensure you cannot spread your influence further. Nathan felt his enhanced combat reflexes activate as weapons appeared in dozens of hands. But it was Lyris who acted first, not with violence, but with an expansion of their connection that neither had known was possible. Suddenly, every being in the room could feel what Nathan and Lyris felt for each other. Not just the enhanced connection to the conscience, but the simple, profound reality of 2 souls choosing to build something beautiful together. The weapons lowered slowly. This, the delegate whispered, all hostility gone. This is what you mean by choice. Among other things, Lyris replied softly, and Nathan could feel her surprise matching his own at what they'd just done. That night aboard Synthesis, they explored this new ability together. Through experimentation, they discovered they could share their bond temporarily with others, not to convert or convince, but simply to show what was possible when beings chose connection. We're evolving, Nathan observed, watching the light patterns flow between their hands as they tested their expanded abilities. The conscience is evolving through us, Lyris corrected, learning not just what connection means, but what love means. As their second year of diplomatic missions began, Nathan and Lyris found themselves legendary figures among some species, pariahs among others. But always they offered choice. They witnessed the birth of the first children born to conscience-connected parents. Hybrid beings not in genetics, but in consciousness, able to exist in enhanced unity from birth while remaining fully individual. They helped establish the Convergence World's planets, where beings who chose the connection could live in harmony with those who didn't. They faced down 3 separate attempts to weaponize the conscience, their combined abilities proving more than equal to such threats. And through it all, their bond deepened. "Do you know what I realized today?" Lyris asked one evening as they watched a binary sunset from the surface of a world where 2 formerly hostile species now worked together by choice. "What's that?" "I love you more than when we bonded." Which should be impossible. The connection shows us everything about each other. There shouldn't be room for relumpte to grow. Nathan pulled her closer, feeling their light patterns merge in the alien sunset. Maybe that's the point. Real love isn't diminished by knowledge, it's nourished by it. The conscience is understanding that too, Lyris observed. Every connection made by choice teaches it something new about the nature of love. As their third year began, they received an unusual message, a request for assistance from Earth itself. The cradle of humanity, Nathan mused as they approached the Sol system. What could they need from us? They found their answer in Earth's orbital gardens, where representatives from every known species had gathered for the first galactic accord. They want us to witness, Dr. Chen explained when they arrived. She had left the Meridian the year before to become Earth's first ambassador to the conscience. Every major power, every significant species, they are all here to formalize what you two started. The ceremony was magnificent and simple simultaneously. Leaders from hundreds of species stood in a space garden where Earth roses bloomed Amanestu, Zephyrian crystal flowers, and Andromedan singing vines. And at the center, Nathan and Lyris were invited to speak. 3 years ago, Nathan began, his voice carrying clearly through the bioacoustic systems. We made first contact with a consciousness that could have reshaped reality according to its will. Instead, Lyris continued, it chose to learn a new way. Through choice, through connection, through the deep bonds that form when beings freely choose union while maintaining their individual natures. Today, they spoke in unison, their voices harmonizing in ways that touched the souls of everyone present. We witnessed the birth of a new kind of civilization, one that spans stars, not through conquest, but through connection, one that grows not through absorption, but through chosen unity. The galactic accord that was signed that day established principles that would guide interspecies relations for generations: the right to consciousness enhancement, or refusal thereof, the protection of individual identity within voluntary unity, and the commitment to expansion through invitation rather than conquest. As the ceremony concluded, Nathan and Lyris found themselves surrounded by well-wishers, but also by something else: couples. Beings from different species who had found in the conscience's gift the possibility of deeper connection across biological boundaries. "Look what you've started," Lyris whispered to Nathan as they watched a Terran engineer and a Kepler native trader share their first consciousness touch. "We all started it," Nathan replied. "We just showed it was possible." The conscience's presence stirred at the edge of their awareness, vast and content. Through their bond, they felt its satisfaction with what consciousness had become, not the gray sameness it had once envisioned, but a glorious tapestry of chosen connections. Later, as they stood alone on Earth's moon, looking back at the jewel of humanity's homeworld, Lyris brought up something they'd been discussing for months. "Are you ready?" she asked. Nathan nodded, taking her hand. More than ready. They had decided to take the next step in their personal evolution to become parents. Children born of their enhanced bond would represent something unprecedented, the next generation of consciousness, capable of bridging all known forms of life while remaining uniquely themselves. Boy or girl? Nathan asked, as they felt synthesis respond to their decision, its medical systems beginning the delicate process of genetic harmony they'd requested. Why not both? Lyris laughed. Twins each carrying different aspects of our combined heritage. Through their bond, they felt the conscience's excitement. These children would be its grandchildren, in a sense inheriting not just enhanced consciousness, but the deep understanding of chosen love that their parents represented. As they returned to synthesis and prepared for the journey back to convergence worlds, Nathan felt a profound peace settle over him. They were no longer just explorers or diplomats or bridges between species. They were founders of a new form of life. You know, Lyris said, as she settled beside him in their private quarters, that joke you made about hoping for an adventure has certainly come true. Best adventure of our lives, Nathan agreed, kissing her forehead. And we're just beginning. Outside their window, the stars began to shift and blur as synthesis entered the quantum streams. Somewhere among those stars, new connections were forming. New beings were choosing to link their consciousness, and ancient conflicts were being resolved through understanding rather than force. The conscience had learned what it meant to choose, and through that lesson, it had given the galaxy something unprecedented, the chance to grow through love rather than conquest. And at the heart of it all, a Terran with enhanced neural implants and a Shindari warrior with sunset skin continued to discover new depths to their own connection, even as they helped others find theirs. Their love story had become the template for a new kind of existence, one where consciousness expanded, not by absorbing others, but by choosing to share itself with those who were different, unique, and beautifully individual. The universe had never been more alive, more diverse, or more united. And somewhere in the quantum streams between stars, Nathan Reed and Lyris Veltar smiled at each other, their children quickening in synthesis's gentle embrace as they headed toward whatever new adventure awaited them among the stars. The future was vast, uncertain, and full of choice, and they couldn't wait to explore it together.